Hello children, how are you all? Hope you are fine and good. I am your teacher Dakshayani, handling biology from Bhadasnar Metric Higher Secondary School, Arakonam. Children, today we are going to see 9th standard biology, chapter 7. What is the name of the chapter, children? Yes, respiration in plants. Right. What do you know about respiration? Let us go into the topic. Before that, there are two main, for example, if you take our human body, there are two types. One is breathing and another one is respiration. Is there any difference, children? Yes, there is a difference between breathing and respiration. Breathing is just intake and giving out the gases, intake of oxygen and out giving carbon dioxide. But the respiration, it takes place inside our cell, right? The oxidation of the food, we say it as a respiration. So now we are going to see how the respiration takes place in the plants, right? So what is respiration? In Greek, in Latin, respirare. Respirare means to breathe. Just underline it. What is in Latin, children? In Latin, respirare. Respirare means to breathe. To breathe. So, the respiration in short we can write as a oxidation of food. We can write it as oxidation of food. Right. And at that process during photosynthesis, what happens, children? Plants prepare the food with the help of carbon dioxide, sunlight and water. They prepare their food, right? What is their food? That is a glucose, C6H12O6. So the food is prepared and the food is broken down by using oxygen. The glucose is broken down and the energy is released So this is the respiration. The respiration is the oxidation of the food, that is a breaking down of glucose by using the oxygen. During this process what happens? Enormous proportions of energy is released. So now let us go into the topic. So respiration, it takes place both the time, right? The plants respire both at the daytime as well as the night time, right? In the daytime you can hear many people, right? Don't sleep under the tree during night time. Why? Because in the daytime what happens? Plants take in carbon dioxide and produces oxygen. So in the daytime it is good to stay under a tree, right? But at the night time what happens? Plants take in oxygen and gives out carbon dioxide. So it is not good to sleep under the tree during the night time. So the plants respire both during the daytime as well as the night time. So food is oxidation, right? Oxidation of food takes place. The glucose, whenever the plants gets sunlight, chlorophyll and carbon dioxide, what happens, children? They prepare the food and convert them into glucose, right? And now the energy is stored in the form of ATP. What is ATP? ATP is adenosine triphosphate, right? Adenosine triphosphate, we can say it as a energy currency. Energy currency. The energy produced during respiration cannot be utilized directly. So hence they are stored in the ATP and step by step it is released, right? And ATP, why we say it as ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. Adenine, it is an amino acid, it is a nitrogen base, right? And with this 3 phosphate group is attached. So adenosine triphosphate, and this adenosine triphosphate we can call it as a storage battery. right? What is the function of the battery, children? It stores energy, right? And at the time of power cut, it starts producing the energy. Likewise, same what happens, this ATP stores all the energy. We can also call it as a storage battery or the energy currency of the cell. But in this ATP, right, this last bond, these 3 phosphate molecules are linked by the bonds, and this last bond is weak bond, is weak, and it often breaks down and combines with another molecules. So when one phosphate molecule is lost, ATP becomes ADP. What is ADP? Adenosine diphosphate. Just look into this, only 2 phosphate is there, right? So again it adds 1 phosphate and become ATP. So like this the energy is produced in the plants. And now we are going to see what is the equation for respiration. So here at the time of photosynthesis, what happens, children? By using the sunlight, carbon dioxide, water and chlorophyll, what is stored? The energy is stored in the form of glucose, in the form of glucose. And at the time of respiration, what happens? By using oxygen, the glucose gets broken down. The glucose C6H12O6, when it combines with the oxygen, it gets broken down into carbon dioxide, water and ATP, right? That is the energy is released. So now let us see how many molecules of oxygen is spent to break one glucose molecule. So C6H12O6, one glucose molecules requires 6 oxygen atoms, 6 O2, 6 oxygen atoms to get converted into 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water. And how much ATP is produced? 32 ATP is produced. So to break one glucose, 6 molecules of oxygen is required, and the energy is released in the form of ATP. And how many molecules of ATP is produced, children? 32 molecules. So this is the equation for respiration. And now we are going to see the comparison between the respiration and combustion. Respiration takes place in the living organism, whereas combustion takes place in the non-living organism, non-living organisms. And here, as a result of respiration, what is released? Enormous of energy is released, but here the energy is released by slow process. It is released step by step. Energy is released step by step, but here energy is released at once. Energy released at once. At once it releases all the energy. As a result of respiration, no light energy is produced, but as a result of combustion, light is produced. What happens if you burn a wood? Light. You get light energy as well as a heat energy. But here, as a result of respiration, only heat energy is produced, no light energy. So here, as a result of respiration, no light energy is produced. No light energy is produced, but here light energy is produced. So this is the main difference between the respiration and combustion. And next we are going to see the types of respiration. There are 2 types of respiration, children. One is aerobic, and another one is anaerobic. What is aerobic? The respiration, if it involves oxygen, we say it as aerobic. Aerobic is also called as, that's another name, oxybiotic. Oxybiotic. Anaerobic is otherwise called as Anaxibiotic. Anaxibiotic, and it is also called as a fermentation also. It is also called as fermentation. Fermentation where it is used? In the preparation of alcohol, like in the preparation of vinegar, like pulika vekkiradu we say, right? So anaerobic respiration. So now let us see about the aerobic respiration in detail. So what is aerobic, right? First one we are going to see what is aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration, the main thing is that it involves oxygen, right? And what are all the products is? It releases carbon dioxide, water and energy. Now let us see step by step. The first one, in aerobic respiration, C6H12O6 plus oxygen is involved, right? 6O2 gives 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy. So glucose in the presence of oxygen get broken down into carbon dioxide, water and energy, right? And it involves two steps, right? One is glycolysis and another one is a Krebs cycle, right? By the process of glycolysis, glucose get first converted into pyruvic acid, and later the pyruvic acid get converted into carbon dioxide, water and energy, right? And next we are going to see about the anaerobic respiration. What is anaerobic respiration? Anaerobic respiration does not involve oxygen. It does not involve oxygen. Here what happens? Glucose, that is C6H12O6 get converted into 2C2H5OH plus CO2 plus H2O, right? Here what happens? Glucose, in the absence of oxygen, it gets converted into ethyl alcohol or ethanol, and it is also converted into carbon dioxide. Here first what takes place? First the glycolysis takes place, but later the fermentation takes place, and it can be also converted. Aerobic respiration, instead of producing ethyl alcohol, it may also produce the lactic acid. So now let us write that equation. C6H12O6 get converted into 2C2H4OH COOH plus water plus energy. Here also the energy is produced, and here also energy is produced, right? So this is a lactic acid. This is a lactic acid and water. So this is the equation for anaerobic respiration. So let us write the difference. From this we can write the difference, children. Aerobic respiration, what is the first difference? It is also called as oxybiotic respiration. Since it involves oxygen, it is said to be oxybiotic. And anaerobic respiration, it is also called as anoxybiotic. Anoxybiotic, it does not involve oxygen. And here the energy is released more. Here the energy is produced less. As a result of aerobic respiration, what is produced? Carbon dioxide, water plus energy. But as a result of anaerobic respiration, two main things are produced. One is a ethyl alcohol and another one is lactic acid, right. For example, they use, mostly we call this as fermentation, right. Fermentation, what is involved? Some microbes are involved, right, to produce ethyl alcohol and lactic acid. So, this is the overall equation for aerobic and anaerobic respiration. With this, you will be able to write the comparison as well as the difference between the aerobic and the anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is also called as fermentation. Fermentation equation is also same. And now we are going to see the two steps, right. What are the two steps, children? One is glycolysis and another one is a Krebs cycle, right. First one, glucose get converted into pyruvic acid, right. So, that is we call it as the first step is glycolysis, and the second step is a Krebs cycle, right. In Krebs cycle, what happens? Glycolysis in aerobic, what happens? As a result of glycolysis, pyruvic acid get converted into carbon dioxide, water and energy. But in the anaerobic condition, what happens? It produces ethyl alcohol, carbon dioxide, or it also produces lactic acid. So, what are the two main steps involved in respiration, children? Glycolysis. What is glycolysis? The process of conversion of glucose into pyruvic acid is a glycolysis. And another important thing is a Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle, the process of converting pyruvic acid in the anaerobic condition and into the aerobic condition. What are the byproducts? We say it as a Krebs cycle. And now we are going to see the site for aerobic and anaerobic respiration. First one is glycolysis. The first process, glycolysis, takes place in the cytoplasm. For example, if you take a plant cell, nucleus will be there and mitochondria will be there, right. So, glycolysis takes place in the cytosol, that is a cytoplasm, and the another cycle, Krebs cycle, it takes place in the mitochondria. So, now look at this image, children. Cytosol, in the cytoplasm what takes place? Glycolysis, the process of conversion of pyruvic acid takes place in the cytoplasm. And the Krebs cycle, the process of breaking down of pyruvate into carbon dioxide, ethyl alcohol, water, everything takes place in the mitochondria. So, this is the site for glycolysis and the Krebs cycle. So, let us recap what are all the things we discussed, children. So, first, what is the thing we discussed? We discussed what is respiration. Respiration is the oxidation of food, right. And then we discussed about the equation for respiration, and later on we discussed about the ATP, the structure of ATP and how it get converted into ADP, right. It is the energy currency of the cell, right. And later on we discussed about the two types of respiration, that is aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and later on we discussed the two processes, that is glycolysis and Krebs cycle, and where does it takes place inside a cell. With this session comes to an end, children. This is the assessment given related to this topic. Just go through it. In the description we have attached the study material, assessment and question bank for this lesson. Thank you, children. Have a nice day.